Witchcraft and its history across religions. Witchcraft, a concept rich in intrigue and controversy, has shaped human history for millennia. It represents humanity's enduring fascination with the supernatural, the unseen, and the power to influence events beyond natural means. Throughout the ages, societies have held differing views on witchcraft, sometimes revering it as divine, other times condemning it as heretical. Across all religions, witchcraft reflects a profound intersection of spirituality, mysticism, and power. The nature of witchcraft varies widely across cultures, from its sacred role in ancient polytheistic societies to its vilification in monotheistic traditions. By examining how various religions practice and perceive witchcraft, we uncover its universal appeal and complex legacy. Witchcraft in ancient civilizations. Mesopotamia, the cradle of sorcery. In ancient Mesopotamia, witchcraft was a respected and integral part of society, deeply intertwined with religious practices. Magic and sorcery were seen as tools for addressing the uncertainties of life, illness, natural disasters, and social conflict. The term kishpu referred to both benevolent and malevolent forms of magic. Protective rituals. Priests performed rituals to invoke the protection of gods like Enki and Ishtar. These rituals often included incantations, sacrifices, and offerings. Healing magic. Temple priests used herbs and spells to cure diseases, blending early science with mysticism. Combating malevolent witchcraft. The Maklu text described a series of rituals to counter curses or harmful magic cast by others. Victims sought divine intervention through prayers and offerings to reverse such effects. Ancient Egypt. The divine art of Heka. In ancient Egypt, magic, known as Heka, was considered a divine gift that maintained the cosmic order. Unlike later traditions that viewed witchcraft with suspicion, Egyptians celebrated it as an essential aspect of life. Deities like Isis and Thoth were revered for their mastery of magic. Funerary spells. The Book of the Dead contained incantations to guide the soul through the afterlife, ensuring safety from malevolent spirits. Amulets and talismans. Egyptians used protective charms imbued with magical energy to ward off evil and ensure prosperity. Priestly magic. Priests, acting as intermediaries between humans and gods, conducted elaborate rituals to invoke blessings, heal the sick, and protect the community. Ancient Greece and Rome. Mysticism meets philosophy. In ancient Greece and Rome, witchcraft existed at the crossroads of mysticism and rationality. While the common people used spells and potions for love, health, and revenge, philosophers debated the ethics and reality of magic. Oracles and divination. Oracles, such as the Pythia of Delphi, used trance-induced rituals to channel divine knowledge. Hecate worship. Devotees of Hecate conducted midnight rituals at crossroads, offering food and prayers to gain her favor. Love and revenge spells. Ordinary citizens often sought witches to perform spells for romantic success or to harm enemies. Witchcraft in Abrahamic religions. Judaism. Judaism's perspective on witchcraft is deeply rooted in its monotheistic framework, which emphasizes the worship of one God and prohibits practices perceived as invoking other spiritual forces. Condemnation of sorcery. The Torah explicitly forbids witchcraft, as seen in Exodus 22 verse 18. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. This reflects a broader rejection of practices that could lead people away from God. The Witch of Endor. Despite prohibitions, the biblical story of King Saul consulting the Witch of Endor demonstrates that witchcraft persisted in ancient Israel. The witch summoned the spirit of the prophet Samuel, showcasing the perceived power of such practices. Protective practices. Rabbinic traditions occasionally allowed for protective amulets and prayers, distinguishing between forbidden sorcery and permissible spiritual defenses. Christianity. Christianity's relationship with witchcraft evolved over centuries, from early ambivalence to outright condemnation during the medieval and early modern periods. Early Christian views. In the early church, magical practices were often associated with paganism and idolatry, but were not a major focus of persecution. Medieval witch hunts. By the Middle Ages, witchcraft became synonymous with heresy. The Malleus Maleficarum, a 15th-century guidebook, fueled witch trials by defining witches as agents of Satan. Healing and folk magic. Despite official condemnation, many Christians practiced folk magic, blending traditional remedies with prayers and blessings. Islam. In Islam, witchcraft, sihr, is acknowledged as real but is strongly condemned. The Quran warns against its practice, framing it as a test of faith. Harat and Marat. According to Islamic tradition, these angels taught humans about magic to test their piety. The story emphasizes the dangers of using such knowledge for harm. Ruqya, healing prayers. Islam permits spiritual healing through Quranic verses and supplications, distinguishing it from forbidden sorcery. Combating witchcraft. Islamic scholars have prescribed specific verses and rituals to protect against malevolent magic. Witchcraft in Eastern religions. Hinduism. Hinduism encompasses a vast array of beliefs, including practices that resemble witchcraft. Tantric traditions, in particular, explore mystical rituals and the use of spiritual energy. Tantric rituals. These include chanting mantras, creating protective diagrams, yantras, and invoking deities for spiritual power. Agori practices. The Agori sect employs extreme rituals, often misunderstood as black magic, to achieve spiritual liberation. Protective charms. Hindus frequently use charms and prayers to ward off the evil eye or other malevolent forces. Buddhism. In Buddhism, especially Vajrayana Buddhism, esoteric practices share similarities with witchcraft but are focused on enlightenment rather than worldly gain. Mantras and mudras. Practitioners use specific chants and hand gestures to invoke spiritual energy. Protective talismans. Buddhist monks create amulets inscribed with sacred symbols to provide protection and blessings. Spiritual combat. Rituals to dispel negative energies or entities are an integral part of Buddhist mystical practices. Chinese traditions. Chinese religious practices blend Taoism, Confucianism, and folk beliefs, resulting in a rich tradition of magical practices. Taoist alchemy. Taoist priests engage in rituals to harness qi, life energy, for healing and protection. Ancestor worship. Offerings and prayers to ancestors are believed to bring blessings and avert misfortune. Feng shui and divination. These practices, while rooted in cosmic harmony, often involve rituals that resemble magical arts. Witchcraft in indigenous beliefs. Indigenous traditions around the world emphasize harmony with nature and spiritual realms, often incorporating witchcraft-like practices for healing, protection, and community well-being. Native American traditions. Native American spiritual practices encompass a deep connection to the natural world, where all living beings and elements hold spiritual significance. Witchcraft, or shamanism, is often seen as a way of communicating with spirits, harnessing the power of nature, and seeking balance with the environment. Unlike the witchcraft traditions associated with evil or malice in some cultures, Native American practices tend to focus on healing, divination, and protection. Shamanic rituals. Shamans, or medicine men/women, act as intermediaries between the physical and spiritual realms. They perform rituals to heal the sick, predict future events, and protect their communities. These rituals often involve drumming, chanting, and the use of sacred plants like peyote or tobacco to enter altered states of consciousness. Healing magic. Native American healing practices are deeply rooted in the spiritual world. Herbs, stones, and animal parts are often used in rituals to bring about physical or emotional healing. The medicine man or woman uses their knowledge of the spiritual realm to cure ailments, acting as a spiritual guide for the community. The role of the trickster. In many Native American traditions, figures like coyote or raven are seen as tricksters, figures who manipulate magic in both humorous and dangerous ways. These characters often embody the complexity of witchcraft, which can be both a force for good and for mischief. Sacred ceremonies. Ceremonies like the sun dance, vision quests, and sweat lodges are part of the spiritual practices, and they often involve invoking supernatural forces through rituals that may include fasting, dancing, and offerings to the spirits. These ceremonies, while not explicitly witchcraft, reflect the deeper connection to magic and the spiritual world. African traditional religions. African traditional religions are diverse and practiced in various regions, each with its own unique set of beliefs, but many share common threads, such as animism, the belief that all objects have a spirit, and the reverence of ancestors. Witchcraft, in the context of African spiritual beliefs, often involves the manipulation of spiritual forces for both good and ill purposes. Divination. Divination plays a central role in African witchcraft. Diviners, often known as Babalawos in Yoruba culture, or Ngangas in Central African traditions, communicate with the spirits of ancestors or other worldly forces to seek guidance and predict the future. The process may involve the use of sacred objects like cowrie shells or bones, which are cast and interpreted during ritual ceremonies. Witchcraft and social control. In many African societies, witchcraft serves as a means of maintaining social order. Elders or spiritual leaders may use their perceived magical powers to mediate disputes, enforce societal norms, and even punish those who break taboos. While witchcraft can be used for personal gain, it is often regulated by strict social structures. Ancestors and spirits. Ancestral spirits are highly regarded in African witchcraft. Rituals and ceremonies are performed to honor the ancestors, and it is believed that they can intervene in the lives of the living, offering guidance or bringing misfortune. In some cultures, it is believed that the spirits of ancestors can be invoked to punish those who use witchcraft maliciously. Protection and healing. Witchcraft in many African traditions is also used for protection against evil spirits or hexes. Talismans, charms, and amulets are worn to protect the individual, and many practitioners are also skilled in herbal medicine, using plants to heal physical ailments as well as spiritual imbalances. South American indigenous practices. In South America, indigenous peoples have developed intricate systems of belief centered around nature, spirits, and the interconnectedness of all living things. Witchcraft here, often practiced by curanderos, healers, or shamans, focuses on both physical and spiritual healing, as well as the manipulation of energies to influence the world. Shamanic healing. Shamans in South America often use sacred plants, most notably ayahuasca, a powerful hallucinogenic brew, to enter altered states of consciousness where they can communicate with spirits. Through these altered states, they seek to heal physical illnesses, cleanse spiritual blockages, and gain knowledge of the future. Curanderismo. In the Andean regions, curanderismo is a system of healing that blends indigenous practices with Catholicism. It involves rituals to remove mal de ojo, the evil eye, and protect against hexes or curses. Herbal remedies, prayers, and spiritual cleansings are central to these practices. Sacred plants and rituals. Indigenous South American groups, such as the Quechua and Mapuche peoples, have long used plants for spiritual and healing purposes. The Palo Santo tree, for example, is burned as incense in rituals to cleanse spaces and people of negative energy. Shamans often serve as mediators between the physical and spiritual worlds, using plant medicines and sacred rituals to restore balance. Witchcraft in modern and contemporary contexts. While witchcraft was historically practiced in secret, often condemned by mainstream religions, it has experienced a revival in modern times. Today, witchcraft is not only viewed as a relic of the past, but also as a dynamic spiritual practice that appeals to those seeking to connect with the natural world, reclaim personal power, and defy traditional religious and societal norms. Neo-paganism and Wicca. The 20th century saw a resurgence of interest in witchcraft, particularly through movements like neo-paganism and Wicca. Founded by figures like Gerald Gardner, Wicca embraces witchcraft as a form of nature-based spirituality, drawing on ancient pagan traditions while rejecting the malevolent connotations historically associated with witchcraft. The Rede. Wicca is guided by the Wiccan Rede, which states, "And it harm none, do what ye will." This emphasizes the ethical use of magic, focusing on positive intentions and the balance of energies. The Threefold Law. Wiccans believe in the Threefold Law, which holds that any energy sent out, whether good or bad, will return to the sender 3 times over. This encourages practitioners to use magic responsibly. Sabbats and Esbats. Wiccans celebrate 8 major Sabbats, seasonal festivals, that mark the turning of the wheel of the year, as well as Esbats, which are full moon rituals used to perform spells and honor deities. Contemporary witchcraft and New Age spirituality. In addition to neo-paganism and Wicca, contemporary witchcraft has merged with various New Age spiritual practices. Individuals today might describe themselves as witches or practitioners of magical arts while blending elements from astrology, herbalism, crystal healing, and other forms of metaphysical practice. Eclectic witchcraft. Many modern witches identify as eclectic practitioners, meaning they draw from a wide variety of traditions and sources. They may incorporate aspects of Native American spiritualism, European folk magic, African mysticism, and modern psychology into their practice. Healing and energy work. Modern witches often work with energy, whether through Reiki, meditation, or ritual to promote personal healing and self-empowerment. These practices reflect a broader trend toward holistic wellness in modern spiritual communities. Social and political witchcraft. Witchcraft has also become a form of resistance in modern society. For example, the feminist movement has seen many women adopt witchcraft as a form of empowerment, using it as a tool to reclaim their power, challenge patriarchal structures, and promote social justice. Witchcraft, in its many forms, is a powerful reflection of humanity's desire to engage with the spiritual realm and the natural world. Throughout history, it has been shaped by religious, cultural, and social forces, and its practices have varied widely across different traditions. Whether seen as a sacred art, a tool of social control, or a path to self-discovery, witchcraft remains a potent force in the lives of many people around the world. From the healing rituals of ancient Egypt to the modern-day practices of Wicca and eclectic witchcraft, the history of witchcraft demonstrates the ongoing human search for meaning, power, and connection with the unseen forces that shape our lives. It is a tradition that, despite centuries of persecution and transformation, continues to thrive, evolving in response to the changing spiritual and cultural landscapes of the world.